Hi, this is Anis from Never Stop Trucking. I'm going to be trying to answer some questions from the YouTube channel here in this video. So we will include as many questions as we can. We are going to be talking about trucking and dispatching. I'm in the USA now. I want to become a truck dispatcher. Someone tell me if I need an MC number to book loads. No, you don't need an MC number. You yourself, you cannot have an MC number as a dispatcher. You would use the owner operators or the carrier's MC number to book loads. Do you have training for beginners? I have a dispatching course. It's on neverstoptruck.in. The link is in the description of the video. So it's not a training, it's more like a self-help video lessons course. Now this video here, I was talking about some things that a dispatcher should avoid when dispatching trucks, and then I spoke in this video about how a bad reputation will travel with a dispatcher if they do things that drivers don't like, or if they do some shady things, and the drivers will notice that, and then their reputation, no matter if they change a company, drivers will know that a certain dispatcher has a certain reputation. So this guy here said that he's one of those in his firm in Europe. Few drivers can portray you as a monster among their colleagues when they meet on a truck stops, but in reality, those bunch of lazy, and I'm not gonna go into like all these, descriptions. So he's saying that sometimes they get a bad reputation for no reason, and of course, like you can't, you have to always ask what happened and why it happened. But I'm just saying, like, if you do bad things a lot, then your bad reputation will travel with you. Here, we always try to get to the root of the cause. I would speak to a driver and a dispatcher if there is something wrong. And I'm not jumping right away to conclusions, like if someone complains about someone, and then, I call them and say, hey, why did you do that? No, I would always call and ask what happened, how it happened, and I want to hear the other part of the story, and then I will maybe talk to them, but in a nice manner. We have this searchable database on our truck, on our website, and this guy is asking what happened to it. We still have it. You can search carriers and brokers in the database, and there's a free version on neverstoptruck.in. It's a live version, okay? And let's see, what kind of advice can you give to boost speaking skills? I think you're at the wrong address here, because I don't see like that right there. I don't think of myself as someone that has great or even good speaking skills. I just go out there and speak my mind, and I haven't had any training. I maybe got better a little bit with time, because it's going to be 4 years very soon that I've been doing this on this channel for trucking. So with time you get better, but still there are a lot of ums and pauses, and sometimes you struggle for words because English is not your first language. So it just comes with time. The more you speak, the more you will get better, and then listening to yourself also helps. Sometimes when I edit the videos, I would cut out a lot of stuff if I make a mistake, if I say something like sometimes the pronunciation is not that great on my part, and then I would cut that stuff out, and then I see how much I'm struggling with speaking. So same thing when you're a dispatcher and you're trying to talk to a broker or to a driver. Of course, it sounds better if you're confident, if your English is better, if you speak your mind clearly, but I think it all comes with practice. the more you speak, the better you get. Same thing with your native language. You start learning when you're little, and then the older you get, the bigger your vocabulary is, and the easier for you is to find right words to express yourself. So it's just experience, I guess. Thank you. Surprised you don't have more views. Incredible effort. Thank you. Thank you very much. Right now, for trucking, trucking is slow right now, and same thing comes to tracking channels, because if certain markets are not doing well, then there is less interest in those markets. The advertisers tend to pay less for views of their advertisements, and then therefore YouTube algorithm is not pushing that content as they used to. Now there are still some tracking channels who do well, or dispatching, but most of those channels are the ones who are relying maybe on news, who are giving updates and statistics, and people like looking at numbers. Or there are some tracking channels who rely on sensational thumbnails and clickbait titles, and of course those channels are watched the most, and I'm not that kind of guy. This is not that kind of channel, and I don't want to be that kind of guy who's going to put out a clickbait title and you go. Sometimes I do a little bit, clickbaity, but that's very rare. But there are channels out there that every thumbnail and title will be a clickbait, and it's something like out of ordinary, something very sensational, and when you click on the video, it's not that as they try to portray it. So that's why these videos right now have less views, because the markets are not good, the advertisers are not paying that good, and there's also in general there is less interest in dispatching as well, because most companies out there that have to do with trucking, like load boards and brokers and government websites, they're trying to vet dispatchers more and more because of fraud and scam, and some of them want to prevent dispatchers from working from different countries. So there is generally less interest as a dispatcher in this business, and my channel for sure in the beginning was only concentrating on dispatchers. With time, I added content for trucking companies, for owner-operators, for drivers, but my channel, most of the videos are watched by dispatchers because they like to watch me book loads and negotiate and talk about using some certain websites, certain techniques, certain tools as a dispatcher, because essentially that's what I am. I do own a trucking company, but the videos are more talking about dispatching. Okay. So this video, like this comment here, we got placed on DNU once for asking for more. So this video I was talking about how to ask for more money on a load in these bad market times without getting dropped, and this guy is asking what's a DNU. DNU means do not use. So these brokers, and we also as a carrier, we have our own list of DNU brokers. So that means that gives a message to everyone else in the company that this broker or this carrier is not on do not use list, meaning you cannot use them, you cannot work with them, and there are different reasons why that may happen. Like this guy says, they ask for more money and they just put them on do not use list because they don't want to work with them when this business is built on negotiation. It's an integral part. It's a part that you cannot remove from this market, because this is a big flea market, and we're just negotiating. Everyone is negotiating with everyone. And you ask them and they put you in do not use list. Like, don't even work with that broker. That broker is stupid. You don't want to work with them. Anyway, this guy is saying, I started my dispatch company, but having a hard time finding drivers to dispatch. It's going to be harder and harder every day. And it's been like that for the past at least a year or more for dispatchers, because owner-operators or carriers, they don't want to pay any additional fees. They don't want to pay someone to dispatch them because they're tight on money. Sometimes they want to do it themselves. And there are so many dispatchers out there. There were so many dispatchers out there at that time that it was just getting frustrating. And as a carrier, I was getting phone calls every day, all the time, from these dispatching companies trying to advertise their services. And there's so many out there that, like, I always say, like, there is enough business for everyone out there. But at this certain period of time, there were so many dispatchers out there that it was getting bad. Suddenly, everyone wanted to do dispatching, no matter where they live, no matter if they have any experience in trucking or any connections or an idea what to do. Like, you get so many questions from these potential dispatchers, some very simple questions that, just by them asking those questions, for me, I feel like they're not even close to being ready to be a dispatcher. Like, you're asking some questions that like, you have to know the basics first, and then as you go further, get more into details and ask these other questions. But they're like jumping ahead of themselves, and that's why I know, like, they're not even like ready for at all. Like, you have to go back to the basic education about what trucking actually is, and then maybe get some education about possibly being a dispatcher. And then here's another question. Like I said, it's a lot of dispatching questions. Hey, I'm a beginner. Can I get the topic to learn about track dispatch? So I don't do tracking myself, and I wouldn't really. Maybe I can do some research and maybe make a video about tracking, but tracking is really not that. I mean, there's really not much to it. You just call a driver and track them and see how far they are they going to be on time, stuff like that. So there is really not much to it. And a lot of dispatchers, a lot of people in trucking in the office will start like that, because that's probably the easiest job to learn. I'm not saying it's easier to do, because you're going to have a lot of trouble with drivers and people being late, but it's probably the easiest one to learn. Here's another one. How can you sign up for a DAT as a dispatcher if you don't have an MC? Now they're saying you need to make the carrier buy the program and then add you as a user. Yeah, that's what DAT does. And the other day I had a conversation with someone, excuse me, from DAT, and because I'm their affiliate, and with using my code for 10% off, you can get 10% off for the next year from your DAT subscription, no matter if you're a dispatcher, driver, or broker, or carrier. So sometimes we have these conversations, and I told them about, I asked them about dispatchers, and they said, yeah, that unfortunately there is no other way for them to vet dispatchers and to control who is having access to DAT and what their intentions are. So if you're just, merely a dispatcher, you don't have an MC number, you don't have an authority, they think that it's really not your place to even have a DAT account. I mean, they didn't say it like that, but that's what I get a feeling that that's what it is. Now, that being said, if you are a carrier, for example, here we have our own dispatchers, in-house dispatchers that work strictly, with us, for us. that's different. You have to give them access. Like you have to create their username and put in their phone number and email and all of that. And you control all of that. You know, once they leave, if they leave, then you take that access away from them because they're not working here anymore. So an owner operator or a carrier can do the same thing. Essentially, they can give you as a dispatcher access, pay for one of those seats. They call them seats. It's just a subscription for one user. And they give you the credentials and you log in and you use it, but you can only use that to work with that specific carrier. If you are about to post a truck, if you're posting a truck, the brokers will see that MC number and you can only work with that carrier. Now, if you were to search for loads, then you can look for whomever you want. You know, no one knows who you're looking for, and when you call a carrier or a broker, then you give them the MC number of a certain owner operator that you work with. So that's the only way to access the DAT load board right now as a dispatcher. How many hours does an independent dispatcher work a day to dispatch 1 to 2 trucks? I meant to answer this question, but I guess I forgot. So this is an interesting question. It kind of tells you that people think that the less trucks you have, the less you're going to work per day. Now, you might work less, but you're still going to have to be available. It doesn't matter if you have 1 or 10 trucks. With 1, maybe you can get away if you have a really good owner operator who are kind of independent and they understand your situation, that you might not be there all the time, and maybe give them the broker information, tell them, hey, I'm not going to be available if something happens. I booked your load, here's a load, you can call the broker. You know, if they understand that, if they're willing to do that. But if you have like a couple of trucks, yeah, you cover them, you know, you cover them like in an hour or 2, but you still have to be available. What if the driver gets to the pickup and there is no pickup number, or the load is canceled? They need some kind of information, the load is delayed. Then you have to call the broker and be there the whole time to assist. So you can't just disappear. You can't go do something else or turn off your phone or go to sleep. You have to be available during those working hours at all times, and then you also have to be available after hours for emergencies. So even if you have 1 to 2 trucks, don't think that you're going to work 1 or 2 hours a day. You're going to have to be available, and because problems will happen, and you have to be there. Okay, just so you're aware of that. Okay, this seems to be like a longer question. I'm a bit confused because before I launch my own dispatching company, I want to make sure that I'm going to get the right thing, at least to start. So he's asking about TMS. Now these TMS programs, all of them, I'm not going to say most of them, all of them are oriented towards carriers or brokers or hybrid shippers. None of them is oriented, maybe like some small program that exists over there. Someone made something simple for dispatchers. I'm sure something like that exists somewhere. But all of these software and apps and TMS programs are built for carriers and brokers. None of them are built for dispatchers. You can use them. You might have to do some workarounds with them, and they will be usable. But most of them are very expensive right now. Like this, like he mentioned, Tracking 365 or Tracking Office, they are cheaper, but they're very limited, and they're simple. They do the job, okay? So that something like that could work for you as a dispatcher. Now, all of those other advanced ones are very expensive. They're like $200, $300, $500, $1,000 a month or something like that, or like depending how many trucks you have, probably even more. But for you as a dispatcher, you know, in all reality, you really don't need a TMS. You know, you can use spreadsheets or build something yourself or use something really cheap, right? That will help you. So as a dispatcher, I really wouldn't worry about TMS unless you grow big, you have a lot of trucks, you have different people that work for you, then you can think about investing in some of these. Until then, if you're working for yourself, like, you know, 2 to 10 trucks, like, you know, spreadsheet is enough. Thanks for a great video. I have completed my dispatching training, opened my LLC, have my website, but yet no carrier. How do I find a company to work under? I really need help. So that's what I was talking about earlier. You're of course, yeah, you need to know what you're doing before you start looking for a carrier. But you did this dispatching training. Dispatching training really, like, it just gives you the basics. It just prepares you a little bit. It doesn't give you any experience. And you have your LLC. Why? Like, you have LLC, you haven't even started, and you don't have a carrier. Well, if you don't know how to find a carrier, or if you don't know anyone yet, then don't do these other things. Like, go out there and see how hard is it to find a carrier to dispatch. Start calling around. You know, go to social networks and talk to people, and then maybe once you have like one or two of them that are, you know, willing to get on board and work with you, then you can, you know, take it a step further, like, you know, start your company or your website, something like that. So just, you know, people don't realize this, that the hardest part being a dispatcher is to find someone to dispatch, you know. So. I think this is okay for now. We did at least like 10 questions. If you like this video, let me know if you want me to make more of these kind of videos. I think they're educational because we can talk about various topics here, and maybe give you some advice for some questions that you probably didn't know, that you did not know the answer to. This is Ennis from Never Stop Trucking. Come back for more. I'll see you around. Thank you.